The newest Rivals 2 patch is here, so I thought that I would break it down with y'all. This patch is really big, so I'm gonna have timestamps for everything, so if you want to skip around, if you're just here to hear what I have to say about Zetterburn, or maybe Ranno, right? Feel free to do that, and also let me know what you think about this patch down below. I think I'll be putting out like a really early, like loose tier list over this patch, just going over who's been changed and what really affected them over the next few days, so if you play any of the characters affected, let me know what you think. Let's go ahead and get over to the patch. To start us off, we have our new bundle, the Baker Olympia. She looks really cool here. I really like this platform. That one's a lot of fun. And if you're interested, you can use code LASTLOCK to support me and my events, and you get a few extra ether bucks. They say though, Olympia is baking up sweet treats in our latest bundle that include the Baker Olympia skin, emote, icon, platform, and 25,000 coins and 250 ether bucks. This epic level skin also features brand new custom themed sound effects, visual effects, and victory voice lines. I always love whenever they do a little extra, right? They like show off like a new emote or like new sound effects. That's really cool. So I'm personally very excited to try it. For another really cool skin, we've seen this one actually before. For live events, the Gommel Forever Canadian Fighting Game Championship is up next. So we're going to get this cool Clarence skin to feature it, and they say, fresh off CEO 2025 this last weekend, we have our eyes fixed on the next big LAN event of the Rivals 2 Championship Series. Gommel Forever takes Rivals 2 to Toronto, Canada, with some of the biggest names in Rivals looking to duke it out for the crown. This patch, we're introducing a new sports theme skin to go with our other loosely esports themed skins that normally get palettes. Introducing Baseball Clarin. Rep the event to show your support with the brand new Gommel Forever palette for the all-new skin. This palette includes custom sound effects. This is really cool. I wonder if the palette will have custom sound effects for the skin. They say the palette, but we haven't seen a palette with new sound effects yet, so that's really cool. Keep an eye out for the skin to make a return with another palette later in July. I think this is the Hungry Box palette. We saw that one leaked, I believe. Sorry for the spoilers. For a special note, the devs add, this palette is also free to all players attending Gommel Forever. And there will be special sports custom sound effects along with all the esports skins, gaining a cheer sound effect in their intro. Attendees will have the skin emailed to them after registration closes. You can still register for Gommel until June 24th. And if you're curious how the first R2CS season is shaping up, you can check out our upcoming and past events for the North American and Europeans coming soon leaderboard on our official league page. It's just a Star Cheat Sheet league. Next up, for new features, practice while in queue. New to this patch, a long requested feature from players. Now, you can enter a solo training room while waiting in an online queue. Simply select Enter Training while actively searching for a match to get the pre-game hand warmers rolling early. This is really cool to see. I know people have been asking for it. Sometimes those queues can get a little long, especially like off hours. So I will be using this, I'll be warming up, getting my movement down, and everything will be fresh for my ranked matches. So that's super cool to see. Moving on to new animations for the whole cast. We have a series of new animations for each rifle. These were a ton of work for the animation team to go through both sets for each character, but we think they add a lot of cool personality. Rivals will now have a unique animation when jumping backwards, both on the ground and on the air. And Rivals will also have a unique teeter animation for when they're standing on a ledge. I really like this one, it adds a lot of personality. We haven't seen this backwards animation yet, so I'm excited to go and check those out too. Next up, Stage Blast Zone updates. This is our first time adjusting stages since the game's release. We don't expect to do this too often, but we've been listening to feedback, watching games, and playing ourselves to land on a couple adjustments as shown below. Fire Capital's side blast zones have been reduced from being around 2800 to being a little under 2700. The devs say, KOing opponents on the stage could often be frustratingly difficult, especially with the stage size making it hard to catch some characters in the first place. With this change, it is still the widest blast zone in the game, but should be a little less polarizing. I like this idea a lot. I do feel like some, especially heavies on Fire Capital, can find themselves kind of living up to like 150, maybe even 200, right, if they get really lucky. Maybe that's just like a me problem because I'm not the best, right? However, it can be a touch frustrating on this stage, so I am glad to see that adjusted. For Godai Delta, the top blast zone's height has been reduced by 200 units. When looking at the starter stages as a whole, the top blast zones were all relatively high, with Godai Delta standing out as having both the highest top blast zone and the widest side blast zones. This combination made KOing opponents in the corners especially difficult. This change makes the stage have the lowest top blast zone of all the starter stages, changing its functionality significantly. I think this actually really does change up the stage a lot. I main Arcane, right? And normally I would actually ban Godai because I like to kill off the top a lot, or by a ledge guard, right? And there's other stages where you can get better ledge guards than Godai that's a starter, and killing off the top was obviously not the best here. So I'm glad to see this stage has been moved down, and now there's kind of like a reason to pick it, right? So if I'm fighting someone who doesn't like to kill off the top at all, I might say, okay, like I like to kill off the top on occasion, right? I'm going to go to Godai, right? And I have that new advantage over you. So this is a really cool change. I'm very excited about this one. For new shop items, they say, coming to the Buck and Coin shop with today's patch are 3 new palettes and 6 new icons. There's going to be a Diet Cola Arcane palette, which is a bit more muted, a purple Leon Claren palette, which is just the same outfit that she had on, just a little bit more purpley, and a yellow Wrastor Parrot palette. I actually really like this one. This color is very bright, and I kind of love sheer bright colors. I don't know if you can tell by the thumbnails. I don't think this week's thumbnail is actually very crazy, but I'm sure y'all can tell from the other ones. Next up, on the Avatar Icon line editions, we have Edlis, Wrastor, Absa Maple, Rough Puff, and Torturous. So I believe that these are all from Dungeons of Aether, and then we have the Baker Olympia icon and the Diet Cola Arcane icon, which I think is really cute. Finally, though, let's move over to our actual patch notes. They say, the June mid-month patch is one of our biggest and most ambitious yet. We have decided to slow down the patch cycle to allow balance changes to simmer a bit before adjusting further. But today's patch sees some massive overhauls to general gameplay mechanics, and some long-anticipated changes to characters like Zetterburn, Ranno, and Wrastor. We encourage players to read through what they can and give us your feedback on the new Note board after trying them out. I'll link this Note board down below, so if you guys do want to leave a suggestion or anything like that, feel free to, it'll be in the description. First of all, the tumble threshold is moving from 27 to 26. This means that attacks will start knocking down slightly earlier, making floor hugging less effective across the board. Next, floor hugging no longer requires a timed input. One of our design philosophies is to make difficult options more accessible, while adding depth in their use cases. Having a timed press requirement meant that a lot of players were unable to use floor hugging, even at higher levels, due to the speed of attack and lower hit pause. We want to ensure that this mechanic is accessible, while also focusing on making other options in the game quick and strong, instead of constantly toning them down. We have decided to remove the timed input in order to make floor hugging more accessible, and to be able to strengthen other options into the game. We also have added several new counterplay options to encourage a greater risk-reward, now that the action is a little easier to perform. We also feel the consistency of the option will allow us to balance it better than the timed input variant, since the actual strength of floor hugging will be easier to see and dissect at all levels. I'm a little bit mixed on this change. I like floor hugging as a mechanic, however I was hoping the tumble threshold would be a little bit lower than it is currently. I will have to play it though to get a better idea on that, right? Maybe this does feel really good, and I'm blowing things out of proportion. However, I think that floor hugging is something that people like to use, right, to prevent big combos at lower percents. However, it's not very fun to have to fight against at high percents, because then you're getting killed for landing a hit in neutral and then it gets floor hugged. So I find this to be a little bit, maybe this number can be edited in the future if it's not working, right? Which I'm sure the devs will be attentive to. Next up though, we have strong attacks will now always send a knockdown when floor hugged. This is a brand new direct counterplay to floor hugging that can work at any percent. Opponents will get knocked down at percents when they would normally go into the floor hug state, making it impossible to be counter hit after a floor hug. This should give alternatives to beating floor hug with grab, especially at lower percents when a lot of moves won't knock opponents down. There are some exceptions to this change due to the nature of outliers, such as Wrastor's cape hits and up and forward strong, and the late hit of Fleet's forward strong. There's a good outlier, right? Because I feel like Wrastor's cape, you're meant to floor hug it as its primary counterplay. So seeing that you can still do that is definitely a big win. Next, floor hugging will cause you to take extra damage at the end of hit pause. Combined with the tumble threshold decrease, the damage dealt is 1/4 of the damage of the attack. This also helps take characters out of the tumble threshold even faster, even on a successful floor hug, meaning that the game state will evolve quicker on every stock. I think this is a really good change. Again though, I'm excited to see how these feel, but I'm not too sure yet. And then they say, this change further distinguishes floor hug from other defensive tools, such as shield or spot dodge, with the punishment for it being damage from a new hit, plus a new additional amount of damage if you stay on the ground. So, this is interesting to see. I'm excited to try out the changes. I think these are overall, like, good changes to floor hugging, right? Like, I think that most people can agree, like, floor hugging in its previous state was not great, right? Like, it wasn't terrible, but it definitely did feel bad to get hit by. And now there's, like, real, like, pluses and minuses to using it instead of just, like, floor hugging's always beneficial, more or less. So I'm excited to try these for sure and see how they shake up the game. Next up, though, let's talk about wavelands. Waveland durations have gone from 10 to 8 frames. Waveland will now put grabs on a 2-frame cooldown, so you can't, like, wave dash and then get a grab immediately, so that definitely does help balance out characters like Orcane that like to do that a lot. This increases the utility of wave dash as an offensive and out-of-shield option. Grab is excluded from this to retain the previous effectiveness of wave dash grabs against opponents shielding on platforms. Holding the joystick downwards after someone hits your shield will no longer buffer a shield drop if you haven't released down yet. Previously, it was too easy to accidentally buffer a shield drop after an opponent hit your shield. I'm glad to see this change. This is just like a quality of life change, and the game should feel a little bit smoother now when shielding on platforms. Shield dropping will no longer cap your horizontal speed. This allows full momentum plat drops out of the run state. Normal plat drops will still cap your horizontal speed at your max air horizontal speed plus 4. So, from what I've heard, characters with very good run speeds, characters like Ranno, or like a character with a really good initial dash, maybe like Maple would do really good at this, right? They can dash, shield, and then drop, and now they're moving pretty quickly in the air from a platform. So I will say, like, you're not going to be like running like a lot on platforms just to get this tech, or at least you wouldn't have been in the past. But now there might be like a benefit to like, okay, I'm going to run on the platform, then I'll drop, right, to get some extra movement. So there's just a bit of new movement tech coming to the game, which is always fun to mess around with. Performing a grounded attack on the last frame before leaving the platform will now perform a runoff aerial instead. Previously, if you input a runoff aerial 1 frame too early, you would get stuck on the platform. This change should improve general game feel in these scenarios, since the player is often intended to perform a runoff aerial. I actually really do like this. I would get stuck on platforms a lot, so the 1 frame buffer here will probably be pretty helpful. Baby Dash will now lose half of its speed when canceling into shield. This prevents Baby Dash shield grabs from bypassing the speed limitations of normal Baby Dash grabs. So I guess like whenever you'd use a shield, you'd kind of gain a little bit of that momentum, especially on characters that can like contain their momentum like Orcane. So they're kind of wanting to tone this back a little bit. Many wall jump vertical speeds have been adjusted. After calculating the height gain for each character's wall jump, we noticed that there were some outliers, so we adjusted them a bit to be a bit more normalized. Individual changes are listed in each character's section. I do know more or less it was the heavies got a buff here because their wall jumps were a bit worse, and characters like Orcane and Zetterburn and Ranno had their wall jumps back a little bit because they had very, very good wall jumps, but we'll see that down below. Air dodges will now start falling 2 frames earlier. This reduces their potency as vertical recovery tools, while also making them worse at grabbing ledge. This will make recoveries across the board slightly weaker overall. Also, sliding off a ledge backwards while shielding will now only put you into the 25 frame ledge slip, if you were previously in shield stun. This prevents certain slippery characters from putting themselves into a bad position when shielding after hitting an opponent's shield. So I know this would happen to especially Edelus a lot on ice. He would be knocked off the stage accidentally, right? Like, he would hit an opponent's shield or they would hit his by the ledge and he would fall off. So this should help smooth that out a little bit. Gravity will no longer ease during the early knockback frames. This mechanic was originally added to make characters spend more time in the air before landing. Now that we have dynamic ECBs, this happens naturally, so this mechanic is no longer needed. Downward sending moves will now adjust the tumble threshold to a minimum of 0.75 times its original value. Because downward sending attacks are generally weaker for offstage balance reasons, they often don't send opponents into tumble until fairly high percent. This change should make them feel more natural when sending into a knockdown. This also affects the critical hit threshold, so downward sending moves will activate the purple KO effect more often. So I imagine this is because of the new changes to making floor hugging a little bit easier. They wanted to update moves that spiked to make them a little bit different interacting with floor hugging. Then, attacks that send away from the character, Zetterburn neutral special or Forsburn down special, etc., will now deal more knockback when sending the opponent upwards, with a maximum of 1.11 knockback scaling when sending straight up. These attacks felt very weak when sending opponents upwards, which made them feel a little inconsistent. For example, Forsburn's down special would be really strong when sending the opponent downwards or horizontally, but would feel much weaker when sending the opponent upwards. Knockback angles have also lowered than 60 degrees have been unchanged. So this means that most moves are lower than 60 degrees, so only like very specific moves like Zetter neutral special or Forsburn down special are getting this change. But they have one more note saying, this change should also help make Zetterburn's neutral special charge feel a little less oppressive when performed below an opponent, since they will now get launched further from Zetterburn. I know a lot of the times, like, I would see, like, a Zetterburn, like, they would do, like, down air on an opponent, then the Zetterburn would land, and then they would do neutral special right to knock the opponent up, set them on fire, and then get the up strong. So that combo should probably not work at higher percents here, is what it's looking like at least. Next up, they say, attacks with variable knockback angles, like Zetterburn neutral special and Zetterburn up special, will now send opponents into tumble at a consistent percent, regardless of the angle they send the opponent. Previously, these attacks would send opponents into tumble much later, when sending opponents downwards, which felt a little inconsistent. For some quick bug fixes and quality of life changes, the minimum joystick dead zone settings have been changed from 50% to 10%. This should give you a lot more control when setting your dead zone, and I think it should also help with fight sticks, because I know they have some problems with dead zones and stuff like that. For our first bug fix, they say, we fixed a bug that caused buffered wave dashes off a ledge to retain their vertical velocity. The next one says that we fixed a bug that caused characters to snap onto stage when using a recovery move into the wall near the ledge. Next, they said getting spiked immediately after dropping through a platform will no longer cause you to fall through the platform for a few frames. So this should mean that you would bounce off the platform instead of being like knocked into the ground and put into tumble. Next, for our last two bug fixes, they say, we fixed some bugs that would cause characters to fall through platforms at extremely precise spacings, and wall text performed during hit pause will no longer give you one less intangibility frame than normal wall text. So these are all good bug fixes, they'll just smooth out the game. I'm really happy about the joystick dead zone settings, because I did have a few friends being affected by that, and I know certain controller brands had a few problems with some dead zone settings, so I'm glad to see those getting a little bit better. Overall, these changes are really great to the game. Most of the changes do interact with the floor hug change, so a lot of the changes like moves sending to tumble more consistently now should make the game overall feel a little bit better, and I am excited to try out this floor hugging change, but I do know that it will probably need tuning over time, so I assume that we can expect within the next patch or two probably fine-tunings to this new system as we see it evolve. Next up, we have our character changes though, and we're starting with Zetterburn. They say, Zetterburn has been at the top of the pecking order for a bit now, and while we've been working on some changes to tone down some of his more oppressive strengths, we weren't quite happy with what we were testing previously. After taking time to not rush some of these changes out the door, we're presenting some adjustments to his aerial combo game, his effectiveness out of Shine, his strength of his recovery, and the counterplay to some of his confirms. To start, his max horizontal jump speed is going from 17 to 15, and his max double jump horizontal speed is going from 15 to 13.5. These changes reduce the horizontal distance Zetterburn can cover with his jumps, making it harder for him to catch opponents who DI his vertical combo moves away. This particularly makes combos like his forward air less consistent on DI away. I assume these combos will still be pretty consistent at lower percents because his moves don't send too far there. However, at higher percents, I definitely feel like these combos, if you do DI them correctly, Zetterburn might have to opt for a different route. For air acceleration, it's moving from 0.9 to 0.8. This impacts his ability to adjust his position in the air, making spacing for his sweet spots slightly more precise and reducing the effectiveness of retreating after throwing out aerials. His wall jump vertical speed is going from 30.2 to 27.2, so a pretty big decrease here. This reduces his overall wall jump height gain from 341 centimeters to 278. Next, his uncharged neutral special hitbox radius has gone from 85 to 75. This makes Zetterburn need to be more precise to use this powerful option. The hitbox was also moved forward and downward to mostly preserve the forward and downward range. So this is the last patch, and this is our new patch. It's a lot smaller and a lot more difficult to land, it looks like, but as we can see, it has moved a little bit to where Zetterburn's jumping at you, especially from the air, he'll still be able to catch you probably in a pretty similar space. So that's pretty interesting to see. I'm glad that that did get some tuning because it felt a little bit too easy to land. I am curious how these changes interact with the double jump horizontal speed being changed, as well as his normal jump and his air acceleration being changed. Since now this move is smaller and then also he has less mobility to be able to land it, this might make Shine kind of niche and a lot more difficult to use, but we'll see. Next up, Uncharged Neutral Special Hit Stun multiplier has gone from 0.9 to 0.8. This makes using this move directly underneath an opponent have the same number of hit stun frames as before. Due to the increased knockback of upward scaling launched moves, it also decreases Zetterburn's advantage when using the move in other situations, such as repeated wave dash neutral specials or spiking opponents into the ground. So now you can still use it for the same combos you could before, however, it's going to be a lot tighter, it looks like. Next, Up Special's starting travel speed has changed from 34 to 45, which is a really big jump. Up Special will now decelerate by 1.05 centimeters per frame during the travel active window. Up Special's speeds multiplier when entering the recovery window will move from 0.2 to 0.3. This decreases the distance he travels by about 35 centimeters. The deacceleration makes it a little easier to punish towards the end of the movement, while also making it feel more natural overall. So basically what will happen is Zetterburn will be really fast at the start of the move, and then he's going to slow down and go a little bit less than he used to. Up Special can now no longer fall through platforms during the recovery window. This makes it function the same as most other characters. He can still fall through platforms once he's in the special fall window. So there's a little recovery window at the end of most moves where you can't grab the ledge, and I assume they're also just making it so he's going to get stuck on a platform if you're in the end of that move as well. This should make punishing it a little bit more consistent because he won't be able to mix it up in those spots, but once he's out of that short little window, he can fall through plats again. Aerial Down Special can no longer hit projectiles while diving. This makes it more feasible to intercept his recovery with projectiles. I can imagine this will be really good in like the Kragg matchup or like the Luxodont matchup where they can throw like pretty hefty projectiles at him and now he won't really have a great defense against them. At least not through the Down Special. Next up, Down Special's double jump refresh cancel window will be delayed by 5 frames for each use per airtime. This makes his recovery weaker each time he gets intercepted off stage, since he'll have to dive further before being able to jump cancel the move. I really like changes like this, because you can still down special and get the jump multiple times off stage if you need to, but you're a lot less incentivized to use it, and you're incentivized to kind of mix up your recovery or find a new route a lot more. Down special cancel animations have been raised slightly upwards. This makes the ledge grab box less disjointed, while not affecting the spacings where Zetterburn will grab the ledge after starting the down special. The bottom of the ledge grab box was also raised to prevent it from reaching below his ECB bottom. I really like this change personally because it makes it to where Zetterburn players can still use their muscle memory from the last patch, but he's going to be a lot easier to hit now and he's a lot more risky since he's raised a good bit. Zetterburn's tail is now vulnerable during the first 21 frames of the down special cancel. Along with the previous animation change, this makes the move slightly more forgiving to intercept. So normally Zetterburn's tail does not have a hurt box on it, but you can see whenever it starts now, it does, and then towards the end of the move it doesn't anymore. So really good change there just to make him more vulnerable during that really good recovery option. Down Special's cancel grounded recovery has gone from 24 to 28. Because this recovery window is accompanied by movement, it can be harder to punish than the frame data would suggest. So we're adding a few more frames to increase the risk of using this move without ledge canceling it. Basically, Zetterburn kind of like slides whenever he gets put onto the ground from this move, so I think the idea is like they just want him to be a bit more vulnerable. Down special cancel ground friction has increased. This causes Zetterburn to cover less distance when landing after a down special, making it slightly more strict to ledge cancel and easier to punish. The forward tilt recovery has gone from 18 to 21. This reduces the combo potential and increases the risk of this attack. This move is really good still to be used at ledge, I believe, so the move definitely still does have like niche uses, but I don't think we're going to be seeing forward tilt be a mainstay of Zetterburn's kit quite as often. All neutral air hitboxes have been shrunk. This move is a little too large for our liking, given its utility. So we can see here the move is like pretty sizable, it goes down to his foot, and here it doesn't quite reach his toes. So the move is like a lot smaller overall, which makes sense because the move was very, very strong in the past. Next up, neutral air multi-hits ASDI modifier against grounded opponents have been taken from 0.5 to 1.0. This allows opponents to floor hug the attack when Zetterburn is rising. So this means he can't like drag people up into the air. I don't think he was doing that too often, but this should just make floor hug a little bit more consistent. Forward air recovery has changed from 18 to 20. This makes comboing the sour and sweet spots of forward air into itself or another aerial a little more difficult. Back air's inner hit knockback has been adjusted, and the tipper knockback has been adjusted. Back air comboed a bit too well into up strong for our liking, given that it also burns opponents. So we're increasing the scaling and lowering the knockback angle so that DI away is more effective. The up air chest hitbox radius has gone from 50 to 30. The hitbox was also moved about 20 centimeters upwards. Up air's active frames have also gone from 4 to 3. The recovery is adjusted to retain the previous as soon as actionable frame. This reduces the downward range of the attack significantly, making it less of an omnidirectional aerial. So this basically means Zetterburn probably can't use up air when landing anymore to start a ladder. For a quick bug fix, the up special bounce window will now freeze his ECB bottom. The addition of dynamic ECBs made it so Zetterburn could act before landing after up special bounced off the ground, which was unintended. This will definitely smooth out his kit a little bit. I feel like this was kind of jank to see. I saw it happen in a few games. It was never intentional, because normally you're not landing up special on the floor, but that is cool to see a fix for it. For Ranno, they've said, we've been keeping an eye on Ranno for a while now, recognizing that a few of his options were a bit more oppressive than we would like. We've reduced some of his slipperiness and defensive capabilities, while also adding extra commitment to his aerial needle usage and a few other over-centralizing attacks. There's been a radius increase on most of his hurt boxes. His thin frame and visually accurate hurt boxes led to some awkward situations where moves would whiff due to small pose changes. His hurt boxes are now slightly thicker, making him a little bit easier to hit. So he's not to the point to where he's way out of line, right? But if he moves his leg back or if his arm moves a little bit, you might not necessarily clip through him. You're definitely going to be hitting him now, so that's a very good change. His run speed has been adjusted from 21.25 to 19.25. This reduces Ranno's ability to quickly cover large distances on the ground. This is not applied to his initial dash, so his short-range burst movement is mostly unaffected. Despite this reduction, his run speed is still the third fastest in the game, so this doesn't make him slow by any means. I'm curious what Ranno mains feel about this change. Whenever a character's movement gets nerfed a little bit, it always feels pretty bad for the first few days. So let me know if you play Ranno and how you're feeling about this. For his wall jump vertical speed, it's been moved from 30 to 25.5. This reduces his overall wall jump height gain from 366 centimeters to 266 centimeters, which is pretty big. Ranno can no longer fast fall during neutral special. The ability to land cancel this move from any height using a fast fall made this move a little too safe and reliable for our liking. Now, Ranno will need to start the move from the right height to make it safe. I like this change a lot. It just makes Ranno a little bit more precise. As I said, if you do start it from the right height, you'll still be safe. So it just makes Ranno players have to play a little bit more accurately with those needles instead of just getting free stuff from wherever. Next up, forward special can no longer jump cancel if it gets parried. And up special's rising hitbox is moved downwards. This reduces the upward disjoint so opponents can intercept it with well-timed moves. So this was last patch where it covers his whole hand, and this is this patch. It kind of goes up to this bubble, but I guess it's kind of more accurately his elbow area. So that means you are going to be able to poke Ranno's hand here. The up special recovery window's air friction has gone from 0.5 to 1. This reduces the horizontal distance he can cover with his up special, making offstage recovering at a range a bit more strict. Also, Ranno can only spawn one poison bubble per airtime. Attempting to spawn a bubble when it's not yet available will perform the version of down special that happens when you already have a bubble out, so Ranno will not just plummet to his death. This reduces Ranno's ability to loop recoveries after his first attempt is intercepted. I think that this change, along with the up special not being able to move quite as far in the air, is definitely going to mess up some of his recoveries, because if you have to use bubble to recover, right, you now no longer have it as a defensive option for if you're being hit off stage, since you only do get one bubble for airtime now. So pretty interesting changes that should smooth out Ranno's recovery and make it a lot weaker. Poison bubbles can no longer capture players for 30 frames after being hit. This allows opponents to hit Ranno when he's near his bubble without knocking him into it, which would often be advantageous to him instead of detrimental. This lockout shares the same timer with the lockout for Ranno controlling his bubble's movement. This lockout, however, is not applied when Ranno hits his own bubble. I believe that this note means that if opponents hit Ranno and the bubble, but I could be wrong on that. Let me know down below if I am, and I'll pin the comment if I am, but I believe you do have to hit the bubble to get this 30 frame knockout. Up tilt's sweet spot knockback has been changed a little bit. This angle change makes DI out a little bit less punishing, while the knockback change makes the move more unique across percents. The up tilt recovery is changed from 23 to 25. This move was a little overloaded in terms of the reward it could consistently give, so we're making it less rewarding on hit, and more punishable on whiff or shield. The upstrong recovery has gone from 30 to 33. This allows for a slightly larger punish window when Ranno throws out this fast and powerful move. And finally, we're capping it off with a bug fix. Hitting a bubbled player will no longer make the bubble hurt box intangible. So overall, it looks like Ranno did get some number changes, with things like his up tilt and up strong being a little bit laggier. And then also, as we know, his run speed and wall jump have both been hit a little bit. It also looks like needles are just going to be like a lot more like technical to use, right? You're not going to have as much like generosity on landing big confirms out of them, and the recovery is a lot worse overall. So I don't think that Ranno got hit nearly as hard as Zetterburn, right? But he definitely is like a lot more in line with the rest of the cast. And I think these were good changes overall. Obviously, like, Ranno was not as dominant as Zetterburn, but he did have like a few things that did stand out as being very, very strong. So I am like happy to see that Ranno did get reeled in a little bit. I do hope to see for more changes in the future if these aren't great, but I'm sure we'll see them in upcoming patches. Moving on to Wrastor though, they say, this patch sees a pretty large rework of Wrastor, addressing community and developer sentiment alike that he needed some changes. This patch addresses the disparity of his top level strengths, while being pretty weak at lower levels, the general feel of bland gameplay, and the amount of interaction his slipstream mechanic encourages from all players. This rework takes a lot of inspiration from his Rivals of Aether 1 design, with faster aerials and the reintroducing of jump cancelable tilts on hit. We also have increased the leniency of his core confirms, while reducing the strength overall, allowing for more consistent KOs, while not ending stocks very early, with the sweet spots were hard to land. To offset some of his new strengths, we have reduced his aerial mobility, and have shifted his ground speed strength from his initial dash to his overall run speed. Slipstream is now active for 2 seconds when it's thrown, and it'll stay in place for a total of 10 seconds. That's pretty long, so you can only throw Slipstream every 10 seconds, which is a pretty big gap in a plat fighter. Slipstream will also stay active for 4 seconds if the projectile hits a player. Slipstream is reactivated for 2 seconds when Wrastor hits a player. This can cause a Slipstream to last longer than 10 seconds if Wrastor keeps landing hits. This version of Slipstream encourages Wrastor to play aggressively, regardless of whether his Slipstream is active or inactive, since playing passively will quickly make him lose his speed boost. I really like this change, since it means that Wrastor is no longer really incentivized to camp to wait for Slipstream to come back off of its cooldown, and he's no longer incentivized to camp to use Slipstream again, right? He can get it back by getting the hit, so it makes Wrastor more interactive, and which should make his opponent also more interactive with him, just by default. Slipstream will be deactivated when Wrastor is hit by any attack, not just stronger attacks. Losing Slipstream when hit by a stray, weak move is now less punishing, since it can be reactivated. His dash duration has moved from 16 to just 10 frames, and his dash speed has been moved from 18 to 15.6. These two changes reduce the effective range of his dash dance significantly. This applies to Wrastor both in and out of Slipstream. His run speed has moved from 17.6 to 18.25. With the reduction to his dash, this run speed increase makes sure he can still cover horizontal space effectively afterwards. After around 25 frames of dash or run, he starts to cover more distance than before. Minimum frames between consecutive double jumps have been changed from 8 to 12. This reduces how quickly he can chase opponents vertically when comboing them, essentially adding a few frames to his follow-ups when the opponent DIs to end up above Wrastor. So this means that Wrastor is going to have a harder time comboing in the air, but as we'll see down below, that should actually be a little bit easier. His air friction has been changed from 0.28 to 0.36, his max horizontal airspeed from 13.2 to 12.6, his max horizontal airstream and slipstream from 17 to 15.6, his air acceleration from 0.9 to 0.8, and his air acceleration and slipstream to 1.3 to 1.1. Basically, to summarize those, he's going to be a little bit slower at all points in the air. These aerial movement changes are intended to offset the aerial frame data improvement so that good DI can be used to escape Wrastor's aerial combos. His forward tilt final hit knockback has been changed, the up tilt sweet spot knockback has also been changed, and the up tilt sour spot knockback has a slight edit. All three tilts can now be jump cancelled 12 frames before their as soon as actionable frame, only if they hit an opponent. This allows Wrastor to transition to aerial combos more quickly on hit. This felt really good in Rivals 1, so I'm very excited to try it in Rivals 2, and it'll also mean that opponents need to be more active whenever playing disadvantage against Wrastor, since being hit by a tilt now requires very precise DI. All hitboxes neutral or one hit now sent at a knockback angle of 65 instead of 32. Having two separate knockback angles felt a little too inconsistent for a linking move, and the lower angle version was too difficult to get value out of in most situations. Neutral air hit 2 knockback angle has been changed from 40 to 45. Linking the first hit into the second is much easier now, both due to hit 1 change and the following aerial changes, so we're raising the knockback angle for the second hit to make it more survivable offstage. So now Nair is a little bit worse at killing. Forward air startup has moved from 8 to 6, forward air's recovery from 23 to 20, back air's recovery from 22 to 19, this one's scary because back air's already really good, up air recovery from 28 to 21, that's a very big buff, and up air's landing lag has been changed from 11 to 12, so it won't be quite as good on landing, but overall it's much better. These aerial recovery decreases are intended to give Wrastor more freedom in the air. Forward Strong's front sour spot is now the sweet spot. Forward Strong's sour spot hitbox radius is from 45 to 55 and move 10 centimeters forwards. These changes make the sweet spot much more lenient to hit, but the larger sour spot offsets that slightly. So we can see here, like, the sour spot is, like, kind of small, but, like, the move is, like, not big, right? Like, the sweet spot's pretty hard to hit here. And then here, like, the sour spot's a lot larger, but also the sweet spot also does take up more range. So I think this will make the move more consistent overall. Forward Strong's sweet spot knockback has been adjusted, and the sour spot knockback as well, and its active frames have been moved from 4 to just 2. In exchange for increased ease of landing the sweet spot, the knockback and active frames have been reduced. Upstrong's sweet spot radius has been moved from 20 to 30 and moved downwards 10 centimeters, so it definitely does not cover as much range anymore, but the move is still pretty sizable. Upstrong's sweet spot knockback has been edited, and its active frames are also going from 4 to 2. In exchange for increased ease of landing the sweet spot, the knockback and active frames have been reduced, so the same as the forward strong collab. Downstrong post-charge startup has gone from 4 to 6. The devs note that they're adding more startup so that it's more difficult to combo into it. Downstrong travel distance before the jump cancel has been moved from 10 meters to 12. This makes whiffing the move more risky, since Wrastor will now have to recover from a lower position. These are both really good changes because I think that Downstrong is very strong against especially lower level players, and if you're making Wrastor more accessible to lower level players, you also need to add in some of that counterplay that they can also access, so I think that making Downstrong like worse overall is a good choice. Starting a neutral special will now cut Wrastor's velocity in half, instead of halting it early. This means that the height he gains from the move will depend on his velocity beforehand, making it less valuable of a recovery move if Wrastor is falling. So if you want to get a similar neutral special as before, you'll need to use a jump and then use a neutral special at the apex of that jump, probably. Up Special's early Sour Spot knockback has been edited a little bit. The Sour Spot was knocking opponents down too early for our liking, making it a little too safe to throw out. Up Special's Sweet Spot radius has been moved from 15 to 10, and its Sweet Spot has been moved 5 centimeters inwards. The Up Special Sweet Spot knockback angle has also been changed from 45 to 50. This makes Up Special worse at securing low percent kills off stage, since DIN will be more effective until higher percents when it starts killing off the top. Down Special throw recovery has been moved from 6 to 12. This still makes it extremely good on hit, but makes the follow-ups a little tighter. I think that the Up Special changes are really good, because Up Special is going to be a little bit easier to confirm into now that Wrastor has a lot less lag on his aerials. However, you will not be getting blown up by it at those super low percents, but it's going to maintain its power at those higher percents. The down special throw recovery is definitely a little bit scary. However, there were percent numbers where he would have like true confirms almost into his up strong, which would definitely be a bit of a problem if down special was still as good as it used to be, and he was just getting free up strongs out of it. Moving on to Kragg, they say. Kragg is a heavy character. He also has some strong qualities that aren't usually present on heavies, such as his high airspeed and good recovery tools. We're toning these aspects down so that his weaknesses balance out his strengths better. We're increasing the damage on some of his heavier hitting moves to help lean into his strengths a little bit more. His max jump horizontal speed has been moved from 15 to 12.5, his max double jump horizontal speed from 13.5 to 12.5, and his air acceleration from 0.85 to 0.75. Kragg's vertical speed is among the fastest in the game, and when combined with his size, his horizontal speed allowed him to quickly control an extremely wide area of the stage. This change aims to make him feel a little like the heavy character he is, while toning down this horizontal threat range. His leg and waist hurtbox radius have been expanded a little bit. His thin leg hitboxes could make attacks with in unexpected situations, considering his otherwise large hurtboxes. So we're making them a little bit thicker now, making hitting him a bit more consistent. His up tilt startup has been moved from 7 to 9 frames, and hit 1 active frames have been moved from 2 to 12. The up tilt hit 2 hitbox has been shrunk horizontally. This move was too strong in a lot of ways, so we're making it a bit smaller and slower to start up to increase the risk and precision of its uses. I will say the hit 1 active frame going from 2 to 12 is a lot, so you might be caught by this move a little bit unexpectedly, just be sure not to bump into him while he's using it. His down strong sweet spot damage has been changed from 11 to 14, the sour spot damage from 10 to 12, the forward air sweet spot damage from 11 to 12, and the up air sweet spot damage from 11 to 12 as well as the down air damage from 11 to 12. You'll see a pattern here. We're increasing the damage on these moves to make sure Kragg can still output high damage, even with the jump speed reduction. So as Kragg, you're going to be feeling a lot stronger on hit, and damage does also affect your knockback, so he's going to be just feeling like a lot better overall whenever he does get those hits, but since his jumps are a little bit worse, he's going to be having a harder time getting these aerials to connect. His neutral air 3 knockback has been changed slightly. We're increasing the scaling on this move to make it more unique across percents. I think this move is going to be really fun to play with in the future, since Kragg's neutral air is already such an interesting move to combo with based on which hitbox you want to get, so this should give it a little bit more utility. The down throw recovery has been increased by 4 frames from 13 to 17. The follow-ups out of down throw were a bit too consistent for our liking, making this the go-to throw in almost every situation. It's still a very quick throw, but this should help make the follow-ups afterwards a little more difficult to land. I'm excited for this because I fight Kragg a lot and it feels like out of down throw there's not really a lot I can do, so this should definitely give people versus Kragg a lot more options and also let Kragg still have good control over what he does after the throw since it's not super laggy. Rock will now be pushed away from players when landing instead of pushing players out of the way. This means that if Kragg throws his rock up, right, and then it comes down on top of him, Kragg won't be displaced, but the rock will. In the past, the rock would displace Kragg, which could lead to some unintentional movement, so I am glad to see a change like that. Next up, we're going to be going through all the wall jump vertical speeds. There's not a lot of other changes that aren't just bug fixes or quality of life changes, so let's get through these really quickly, because I've already taken up enough of your time. For Fleet, her wall jump vertical speed has gone from 20 to 22. For Maple, it's gone from 32.5 to 31, so very small decrease for Maple and a small increase for Fleet. Loxodon, they say, we have a couple changes to Loxodon's forward throw in preparation for Absa's arrival. These changes ensure that she and other characters will properly be stuck by the correct hitboxes during the swing action. Forward throw now does a more complex trajectory calculation to determine when to swing the axe. Forward throw initial toss hit stun multiplier has gone from 1.2 to 1.5. These changes are being made in preparation for Absa's release, since her floating knockback stats made this throw whiff completely against her. For a bug fix, the forward throw center hitbox is now lower priority than the sweet spot. This fixes a bug where Kragg would still get hit by the sour spot, even if he DI'd the initial toss forward. Basically how this move works is it's a 2-hit like throw where Loxodon throws the opponent forwards and then swings his axe, and so these changes have all been made to make sure that Absa and other characters are correctly hit by it. This is not a change you should feel at all. Like if you're fighting Loxodon, you shouldn't be like, man, Loxodon's like so much stronger, like the forward throw got buffed. It's like, no, not really. Like I don't think any of us are playing Absa right now, at least. So, if you are playing Absa, you might see a difference. For Arcane, his wall jump vertical speed has been changed from 28.7 to 26.7. It reduces his height gain from 32.4 to 281, so not a huge difference, but it'll be noticeable. For Forest Burn, he's gone from 30.2 to 27.2 for his wall jump. It reduces it from 353 centimeters to 287, which is much more notable. For Edelis, his wall jump vertical speed has gone from 25.66 to 28, which is above. This increases his overall wall jump height from 224 centimeters to 265, which is pretty good to have. For a quality of life change, the up air can no longer land during the throw windows. This prevents the throw from being cancelled when Edelis grabs someone while he's right above the ground. So this will mean that Edelis will kind of just like hover over the ground, then use the move instead of him landing and the move being prevented even after he's already landed it. For Olympia, they say they have a quick bug fix, and they fixed a bug that caused her back air hitbox to not interpolate when switching from the early hit to the late hit, so this move should connect a little bit more consistently. Finally, their last note, they say, these are some big changes, and we're sure people will have opinions on them, and we encourage that. Our new Null board is live and ready for feedback. We hope you enjoyed this patch, and we're looking forward to Absa's release in just 2 weeks. I'm gonna link the Null board down below, and it does feel kind of weird that Absa comes out in 2 weeks, like that's very soon. Really quickly going over the patch and recapping them though, Kragg got a few changes to just pull him more in line with other heavies. I think these changes are good. I don't think all of them are necessary. Like, I feel like the air acceleration change, like, we might need to, like, look back at that in the future. But I do agree, like, things like the down throw, you're just gonna have more counterplay to down throw instead of being kind of stuck in, like, a throw loop or getting hit by a strong. I'm really excited to play Wrastor. I think he's gonna be a lot more fun now. I don't think that Wrastor necessarily felt weak in the last patch, but he didn't feel very fun, right? Like, it felt like a lot of his kit, like, it's like, why would I use this option? There's easier options and more rewarding options in his kit. And now it feels like a lot of his kit is going to be a lot faster and a lot more fluid to use. So I'm very excited to try that out. Ranno felt like he got the nerfs that he needed. I'm very happy with these Ranno nerfs. They don't feel like too much. But they should make playing against him, especially ledge guarding against him, a lot more worth your time. In the past, it felt like Ranno would kind of go off stage, and then it was like, okay, I'm not going to die. Like, I have bubble here, you know? I have like a super long recovery. But now that's not exactly the case, so he should die if you put him off stage and you play correctly. Zetterburn got a lot of nerfs. I'm very shocked that they like went very heavy-handed with this instead of spacing out these nerfs a bit more, because he is one of their more popular characters. So if you're a Zetter main, let me know down below what you think. I've seen some players on like the twitter.com saying these nerfs are terrible, like Zetter's like busted, don't play him. And I've seen some players say like, oh, he's fine, right? Like these are not that bad. So let me know what you think about that. With that being said though, I do want to let you know about a quick survey that I'm hosting. I'm asking players to tell me who they think the easiest and hardest characters are in the game. So if you want to fill that out and have your answers influence the next video, go ahead and check out the description. It takes like 2 minutes. As always, thanks tons for watching until the end. It means a ton. I know this one was really long, but thank you for real, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye for now!